Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'm covering Children of Blood and Stars and Assault on the Lich King from Chronicle Volume 3, so let's go! Although there were a number of pockets of Alliance resistance scattered around the region of Lordaeron, the largest group were gathered in Silverpine Forest. They were led by a human called Grand Marshal OTHMARGARITHOS, and to be honest, he wasn't a great leader. The only reason he'd gained the position in the first place was because he was the highest ranking survivor of Lordaeron's military. Everyone who should be leading this army was dead. He was an angry bloke, and kinda racist. He wasn't a big fan of the non-human races in his ranks. When kael'thas and his Blood Elves arrived, he wasn't a big fan of them either. The prince pledged his allegiance to the Alliance resistance, and Garithos was like, "We need the numbers, but I f***ing hate you." Despite this, kael'thas committed himself and his people to the war effort. They quickly proved their worth as one of the most effective fighting forces in the army. They seized large portions of Silverpine Forest and slowly worked their way towards the ruins of Dalaran. The Kirin Tor still partially controlled the broken city, but the surrounding land was swarming with Zambeath. On their approach, kael'thas sensed an unseen arcane energy. A storm of magic was brewing somewhere. Whatever it was making the Scourge even more mental. Undead streamed into the region in greater numbers than ever before, and the Blood Elves struggled to hold their ground. kael'thas was on the brink of ordering a retreat when some strangers appeared, and were like, "Sup bruh?" Maiev Shadowsong, Tyrande Whisperwind, Malfurion Stormrage, and a bunch of Night Elves had braved the Great Sea in pursuit of Illidan. And here they were, in the Eastern Kingdoms, saying, "Sup bruh?" The Blood Elves and Night Elves were vastly different in culture, but shared a common ancestry. kael'thas figured there was much he could learn from his distant cousins. Maybe they could even shed some light on how to fix his people's magic withdrawal. When the Night Elves explained that they were chasing after a powerful demon named Illidan, kael'thas thought, maybe that's who's responsible for this arcane energy that's driving the Scourge into a bloody frenzy. So he decided to help them in their hunt. And for the first time in 10,000 years, these two divided elven societies were working together. Unfortunately, the elves weren't the only ones hunting Illidan. The Lich King had seen Lady Vaj and her Naga hanging about near Dalaran through the eyes of his minions. He was kinda intrigued as to what the balls they were doing, but their intentions became clear when Illidan arrived. This demon-looking bloke started casting a spell, drawing on Dalaran's ley lines to amplify the Eye of Sargeras. A storm of arcane energy slowly coalesced around Illidan, growing more powerful by the day, and the Lich King wasn't a big fan of that. He'd always known Kil'jaeden would retaliate. This demon seemed powerful, and that immense spell he's working on is probably going to be directed at the Frozen Throne at some point. And that reminded the Lich King of his one true weakness. He's bloody trapped in ice, innit? The only choice he had was to unleash the Scourge on Dalaran and stop the spell. So the undead flooded through southwestern Lordaeron as quickly as they could. But they weren't fast enough. Illidan completed his preparations. The tempest of arcane energy shot out into the sky like pretty much every movie that's come out in the last 10 years, and its fury was channeled towards Icecrown Glacier. Lady Vaj and her Naga stood there pretty impressed by this display of raw power. There were some unintended effects, like the land beneath their feet buckling and massive fissures erupting in regions across the world, but Illidan wasn't that bothered. As his followers battled to keep the massive Scourge army closing in around them at bay, he continued to stay focused on Icecrown. The bombardment of magic cracked the Lich King's icy prison, and the entity was now completely exposed. A few more strikes, and he'd be finished. But the quote-unquote good guys of the story showed up and crashed into Illidan's forces. The combined Night Elf and Blood Elf armies soon reached Illidan himself and threw his spellwork into disarray. As Illidan stood there like, "Wait, no, stop it you jerks." The Eye of Sargeras crumbled, the earthquakes calmed, the storm of magic went silent, and Illidan was ever so slightly pissed off. The Night Elves seemed to not really give a crap that they'd just inadvertently saved the Lich King. As far as they were concerned, Illidan's spell was devastating the land, and they were absolutely right to stop him. And Illidan called them a bunch of knobs. When were they going to learn that in order to defeat the Legion and their creations, they'd need to sacrifice everything? It was at this point that Illidan realised the elves would never have the will to fight in his war. And we're leaving it there! In the next Volume 3 video, Illidan is going to bugger off to another planet, because, you know, he's having a strop. And the Blood Elves are going to get sick and tired of the Alliance's shit. As always, thanks very much to those of you who support the channel as patrons. If anyone would like to support the channel in that way, links in the description. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!